Rob Sevier, co-founder of the Numero Group.
Ken Shipley, co-founder of the Numero Group. I was working on a series of records for a large independent label that just never really came to fruition. When I lost my job, I was able to extract one of those records, which was by a group called Antenna. And Rob and I met in a bar one night. He had the idea for another record called Eccentric Soul, and with those two records, there was this idea that maybe we would start a record label that was based around what people like soul jazz and Honest Johns were doing, but do it in America and do it better. This is the Numero Group. This is Rob Sevier's office. It's a bit cramped, much like his world, his records. This is the design staff. This is Leland Miners, Nate Phillips. This is my room. Again, another mess. So this is tape library 1. Everything that's already been dealt with is here. It'll get filed away after we're done with it. And then this is tape library 2. This is all stuff that's mostly incoming, things that need to be dealt with, things that we haven't had the chance to properly go through and figure out how to make it into something. Syl Johnson has this amazing garden, and every couple of weeks he just brings us over tons of vegetables. This is what was left from yesterday. It filled almost this entire table of just squash and tomatoes and eggplant and cucumbers and cherry tomatoes. And, he comes over and he brings the grocery store to you.
And the thing I think is interesting about where we're at as far as running the record label is that it was easy when it started. In many ways, it was easy to say, "Hey, we want to do this. Let's just do it." Now we're 150 different products in, more actually, 180 different products. We've created 180 different products. Now the problem isn't just, "Hey, we want to put out this record. Let's put out this record." It's like, how do we deal with all these things we've done?
This is the main warehouse. Has thousands and thousands of LPs and compact discs and 45s. This is Haley's office. Haley is our tape op, and this is where we do some of our initial transfers of reel-to-reel tapes. We never use anything here to master. This is more of an auditioning studio. It's her baby.
It's the best of both worlds, you know? It's like I'm doing audio stuff, but I'm working with music that is a lot more interesting than most of the stuff going on.
Generally what triggers a project is somebody here will become extremely passionate about one or a handful of songs, whether they find it on YouTube or it's a 45 from their collection. There's a myriad of different possibilities to make a record tip from being an idea to being a reality, and much of it is just circumstantial.
I was going down to Belize and with my girlfriend, and Dante Carfagna, who's a big part of this project and other projects, told me to keep an eye out for this record. It was a very rare record at the time, but the thing that was worth noting is that it says contemporary electronic systems. That was, to me, the first clue that it was possibly connected to something that might still be alive. The contemporary electronic systems was still in the phone book, and within really half an hour or so of landing in Belize City, getting my hands on a phone book, I looked it up and was on my way to the current address of Contemporary Electronic System. The building itself was brand new, which did not give me high hopes. But when I got inside and I started talking about the records, asked the receptionist if she knew anything, she said, "Well, I better get Compton on the phone." Compton Fairweather is the proprietor of Contemporary Electronic Systems. He used the name of his electronics company for his record label. Essentially what was happening at the beginning of their story was their classmates Gerald Rayburn, who became known as Lord Rayburn, was making waves as a calypso, soul, and reggae artist in Belize City. And they knew they needed to get a record on the market, but there was no recording studio in Belize. So Compton Fairweather was actually living in New York at the time. They got in touch with him. They said, "We need you to bring this equipment down and record Lord Rayburn," who is their classmate. He was living in New York, rented the equipment they needed. He had the technical aptitude to use it. They brought this equipment in to Belize City to record Rayburn and press the first record that had ever existed of a Belizean artist of popular music, essentially, like of contemporary popular music.
Rob gets back to Chicago and he's like, look, I met this guy named Compton Fairweather and he's got all these master tapes and these records and they're in Flatbush. We need to go out there and secure them. When we got to Compton's basement, there was just copies of every CDS record. Some of these records are records that nobody in the world had ever seen because, well, one, they'd been destroyed or thrown away, and two, they'd never really left the cruise ships. We got basically every record on the label and began the process of trying to whittle down everything here. We had this little Vestax, and I remember we put it on my lap in the passenger seat and began listening to the records on this 13-hour drive home, just one record at a time. Those piles became a list, and eventually this and a stack of 3045s became this.
You ask what is the mission of the Numero Group. We're at a size where it's actually very difficult to grow bigger. There's a lot more we want to do, but it takes shape as we do it. 10 years ago, our goal would have been to have enough releases that it's a respectable catalog and that we have a respected reputation and that we can continue to put out records. Well, we're there. That was our goal 10 years ago. We've done that. We want to make the best records possible, and we also want to make different records than we've ever made before, like different types of records. We want to expand what we do, but the thing that makes that difficult is we still have to do what got us here. We can't just stop what we did before and start doing something new, nor do we want to. We want to continue doing the things because with the main line of Numero releases, we're doing some very culturally important stuff. In some cases, catching master tapes before they're being thrown in the garbage. In some cases, doing interviews with people right before they die, unbeknownst to us. Capturing information, capturing stories, capturing music, and just before it goes past the event horizon of a black hole, of an information black hole. So that's a culturally significant, on a small scale, activity, and we're not going to leave that behind. But there are other things that we want to do as well. And to expand into those, it's to be a startup all over again.
Just make it seem natural.
All right. I mean, we're going to have to move.
Just pick up the couch and move it.
All right.